Hey everyone, Skull902 back here for another part of McDonald's Treasureland Adventure, and as we go into Part 3, World 3 here, I wanted to talk about something a little interesting about McDonald's history. But before then, the balloon power-up. So essentially, the balloon power-up is a very nice, useful tool to help you on your adventure. When Ronald falls into a bottomless pit, it'll prevent you from losing a life. And you get like a few seconds to position yourself and whatnot. I know that if it weren't in the game, I'd have been kind of fucked. Because I'm fucking terrible. I suck. As said before. And I don't hide that I suck. I don't know how many times I need to repeat that, but I just do. So, yeah, that's the balloon power-up. And I think one of the good things about it, too, is that I'm fairly certain that when you pick up a singular balloon power-up item, it accounts for like 3 or so uses of the balloons before you run out. So, that's pretty cool. In fact, actually, there's a count there. 5 balloons. Good shit, good shit. Definitely. But what I wanted to talk about here, as far as like McDonald's and their interesting history, is that like when it comes to the courtroom, McDonald's has a particularly interesting history. And I didn't want to talk about this like in the next part because I don't really want that one to be depressing, because there certainly are some depressing fucking subjects in the lawsuits that I wanted to bring up here. Last time I did talk about Mac Tonight, also fuck you Captain Big Lips, but we'll see why later. I did talk about Mac Tonight, and like they stopped using him due to a lawsuit, but that one was settled with the plaintiff. So yeah, like that one ended on fairly alright terms for McDonald's. So that's like, it's like a pretty standard one. I don't think much more needs to be said about it. The estate sued. McDonald's decided not to fight it, and the commercials stopped airing, but they still used Mac Tonight in like various other different ways, but not quite as much. But one such lawsuit that I do want to talk about, first of 3 here, is I think I said it before, like in the first part, that there were some characters from McDonald Land, what this game is based on, that they had to stop using after a while, or more so that they just kind of slowly abandoned, and it was due to a lawsuit. So basically, certain characters, I think the ones that were like the big subject of the lawsuit were Mayor McCheese and Officer Big Mac. Those characters were alleged to be plagiarizing a children's show from the late 60s called H.R. Pufnstuf. And I did some reading into it, and like I already knew like some of the details, like for instance, Mayor McCheese and the title character, H.R. Pufnstuf, look extremely fucking similar. So I knew that much, but I wasn't aware of like a lot of the circumstances behind the lawsuit, and it's pretty fucking insane, actually. So like how it all got started was that like McDonald's ad agency that they were going with to develop the McDonald Land ads basically went to the creators of the show and were like, hey, we're doing this ad campaign. Here's what it's about. Do you want to get in on it? And they had like some negotiations for a little while, before eventually the ad agency told them that they weren't going to go through with the ad campaign, but that was a lie. Only a few months later, the first McDonald Land commercials started airing, which is fucking nuts. You wouldn't hear about something like that today, I don't think. Where just like the ad agency fucking straight up lied to the people they wanted to work with and whatnot. But it also turned out like, they were, to put it generously, drawing a lot of inspiration from the show. And they also got like a bunch of workers who had been on the show, so like designers, actors, puppeteers, set dressers, and whatnot to work on these ads. And in addition to the characters that they thought were rip-offs, the creators of the show, rightfully, I feel sought damages. So like they went into court, and the first decision was in favor of them, but it was like for a pittance of money. They were kind of getting gypped on the settlement, or not the settlement, the judgment. So yeah, definitely understandable why they'd be frustrated about that. Both parties went and appealed, and eventually, it was ruled that McDonald's was guilty of plagiarism. Hi, Grimace. Duh, gee, Ronald. I fucking love that. But McDonald's was eventually ruled guilty, and the court said you got to stop the ads or change them or whatever. Which McDonald's did. They did revamp the McDonald Land ads, and I guess it worked out in some ways, because McDonald's did still use the characters that, were the subject of the whole thing for a little bit before dropping them. I guess they just had to pay royalties after that. And in fact, I'm going to talk about the show in the next part, but I was a little surprised to find out in 1999 or so, they actually used Mayor McCheese in an episode of The Wacky Adventures of Ronald McDonald, which was long after they, threw the character to the curb in the advertising. So, a very rarely used character after a point, and I guess that's just because they didn't want to pay royalties or whatever. Fair enough. They did basically reboot the whole ad campaign anyway. So I don't know how different it was necessarily after they dropped some of the characters, but whatever. So the HR Puffin Stuff people, they got their money. McDonald's still got to use the characters, if they really wanted to. They just had to, shell out a little money to do so, and whatnot. But yeah, that's the HR Puffin Stuff lawsuit. I think the right decision was reached there. It's not just that they ripped off the characters. It's like they took the entire fucking crew basically from the show and used it in the ads. So yeah, McDonald's did a big bad. McDonald's did a big bad there, but a couple of cases that I think are more relevant to the time that this game came out. The first would be the coffee case. Oh boy, the McDonald's coffee case. So in 1992, there was an elderly woman in the state of Arizona who ordered some coffee for breakfast at McDonald's and spilled it on herself by accident, of course, and sued for damages. But like the whole thing was brought on by the fact that like this woman, she paid like thousands of dollars in medical costs and had to have skin grafts and physical therapy and all that, and missed some work. So she was like, "Hey, McDonald's, can you cover these costs?" That's all she wanted, was for them to cover the costs of the medical bills and the lost wages. And McDonald's was like, you paid like thousands of dollars, but this isn't really our fault, so here's $800. And obviously the woman wasn't going for that. Originally, the court did rule in favor of the woman, but the judgment was for like a really shitty low amount of money. So you know, they had to appeal it. Both parties again appealed it, and eventually the right thing was done, and McDonald's eventually like had to pay her like $650,000 or so. So it was more than enough to cover her costs and everything. But it's just really unfortunate. I think that it's like a case of the media going like out of their way in order to sort of mix things up, or like at least some things were lost in context to the case, because it's often cited as a example of frivolous litigation. But like when you really take things into account, like they ruled that McDonald's was 80% at fault and the woman was at 20%, and I think that that's fair, because like, you know, was it the smartest idea to hold a cup of fresh hot coffee in between your legs in a car with no cup holders? Probably not. But at the same time, McDonald's was making this coffee at extremely high, dangerous temperatures. So, yeah, I think that they made the right call there and everything. It's a crying shame that that woman had to live for the rest of her life, because, you know, she died about a decade later. You know, with people thinking that that she, you know, brought on this frivolous lawsuit, when that really wasn't the case. So yeah, another case that might be more familiar to my friends across the pond over in the UK would be the McLibel case, and that one started out because some environmental groups, or more so one specifically, some environmentalists handed around some leaflets about like the dangerous things that they purported McDonald's to be doing. And McDonald's didn't like that. So they sued for libel. 5 people were named in the case, and 3 of them apologized. They were dropped from the case. But 2 of them stood their ground, and you know what? Good for them. Because, like, you know, some of the things that they did say were untrue, and thus they were, like, actually guilty of that. But, like, there were some truths in there. So it's, like, there's no real definitive good guy in this case. But, like, it's another thing where, like, there was a ruling, and, you know, not enough money was involved for one or both of the parties. They both appealed and whatnot. But, like, I think that the true bad guy here is the UK government. Right? So, eventually, the defendants were forced to pay McDonald's, like, £40,000. Because, like, you know, they weren't as guilty as McDonald's was alleging them to be, but they still were guilty. But the thing about it was that, like, due to the law at the time, people weren't able to seek financial aid or, like, legal aid for libel lawsuits, which is fucking dumb. And, like, it was found later on, after like another big appeal to the European Court of Human Rights, who ruled in favor of the original defendants against the UK government, that like there was an undercover police officer who helped write the pamphlets. So it's like, it's almost as if you know, they were in there trying to make sure that these people did get sued by McDonald's. You know, and fucked over by these shitty, stupid laws, right? Because they weren't able to afford a lawyer or anything, and whatnot, or to be able to pay McDonald's what the court ordered them to either. So, like, the whole thing is a mess. There's not really any good guys in that story in particular. But I'd say, like, the biggest bad of the whole bunch, again, is the UK government, because it seems like they just set these people up to be sued. And the laws themselves were very, very, very fucking shitty. So, yeah, I know I didn't really do a whole significant job of explaining that, but I hope that I did enough. So as the boss fight's ending here, I might as well explain how Captain Big Lips works. And it did take me a little while. That's why I was going on about these lawsuits. But it's a thing about timing, and I guess I just fucking suck at reading his patterns. Or whatever. But Big Lips likes to jump around, and he'll like throw his hat at you, and the floor will be moving as well when he's not summoning the enemies. And like, I don't know. To me, it just seems like he's jumping around randomly, but he does go on a fairly defined path. Sometimes he does divert from that path, though, so it's not like an exact thing. And I think one of the times I did get hit there, it was because I was expecting him to shoot his beam, but instead he jumped over to where I was. Other times it was just because I was being an idiot and didn't take my chance when I should have. But yeah, I died on that one too. But it's just a case of like, I don't know, maybe I'm just not used to the boss fight, or used enough to the boss fight. But yeah, I fucking hate that one. I hate the shit out of that boss fight. But yeah, that's how Captain Big Lips works. And those were the lawsuits that I wanted to mention about McDonald's, because again, I kind of don't want the last part here to be depressing as shit. So as Ronald and friends are getting help from the professor, who is one of those characters that was sort of dropped in the mid-'80s. I don't think that like he was and anything that the HR Puffin stuff people complained about, but who fucking knows. But him, along with Captain Crook and many others, were dropped in the mid-'80s to simplify the cast, I guess. But yeah. Now that we have the treasure map, it's off to the moon. Duh, G. Ronald again. But yeah, it's off to the moon for a pretty interesting world in the next part of McDonald's Treasure Land adventure, and I look very much forward to talking about what I want to talk about then, which will be like certain McDonald's multimedia. So yeah, a bit depressing this part, but I think next part's going to be pretty fun in terms of the subjects and whatnot. But I'll see you there. I have been Skull902. Thank you for watching, and have yourselves a wonderful day.